Good evening. It's late here on the East Coast. I'm pretty sure some of you guys are still in the evening, early in the evening, or in the mid-evening. But y'all know what's happening in the news. If y'all can tune in, that will be great. That'll be fine. I would like to address Miss Lady herself, the number 3 Republican, aka Elizabeth Lynn Cheney. Yes, I'm saying full names tonight, because I found this to be interesting. Who would know in my 35 years of living that I will see the grand old party, aka the GOP, will be in a disarray, fighting among themselves? So let's just give a brief synopsis on Elizabeth Cheney. I'm about to get into my opinion of her. Elizabeth Lynn Cheney, born July 28th, 1966, that makes her a Leo, is an American attorney and politician serving at the U.S. House of Representatives for Wyoming's at-large congressional district since 2017. And she's been the House Republican Conference Chair, the third highest position in House Republican leadership. She is the third woman elected to have that position after Deborah Price and Catherine McMorris Rogers. Like, that's important. So, the reason why and I forgot, she is the daughter of Richard Cheney, also known as Dick Cheney. So there you have it. But the reason why we are focusing on her tonight, because y'all heard in the news, the GOP's in a disarray. And she's the center of all that drama. It happens when, it's a little brief one, when the insurrection happened January 6th, that's 4 months ago. That makes it 4 months tomorrow. And she spoke out against it. She felt like it wasn't right. And the people in her caucus wanted to overturn the election, including the leader of her party at the time, that she was so dear to. All of a sudden, she had a change of heart. Don't know where that came from. And so she voted to not overturn the election and voted to impeach the former guy. And the GOP has been having problems with her since. They secretly voted to keep her in, and now there's growing calls to get her out. But she wrote an op-ed. She did. It came out today. I got a little bit of it. I'm not going to read that much of it, but I'm going to read some of it. Liz Cheney, the GOP is at a turning point. History is watching us. In public statements again this week, former president, you know who, has repeated his claims that the 2020 election was a fraud and was stolen. His message: I am still the rightful president and President Biden is illegitimate. The only illegitimate president was Donald Trump, because there's evidence that he cheated, that there was Russian collusion. We all knew that. Trump repeats these words now with full knowledge that exactly this type of language provoked violence on January 6th. And as the Justice Department and multiple federal judges have suggested, there is good reason to believe that Trump's language can provoke violence again. Trump is seeking to unravel critical elements of our constitutional structure that makes democracy work, confidence at the result of elections and the rule of law. No other American president has ever done this. Then she goes on to say, history is watching, our children are watching. And she talks about House Republican leader Kevin McCarthy of California left no doubt in his public remarks on the House floor on January 13. McCarthy said the president bears responsibility for Wednesday's attack on Congress by mob rioters. He should have immediately denounced the mob when he saw what was unfolding. Now McCarthy has changed his story. No surprise. She said, I'm a conservative Republican. And the most conservative of conservative values is reverence for the rule of law. Each of us swore an oath before God to uphold our Constitution. The Electoral College has spoken. More than 60 state and federal courts, including multiple Trump appointee judges, have rejected the former guy's arguments and refused to overturn election results. This is the rule of law. That is our constitutional system for resolving claims of election fraud. And then she goes into something like this. I have to read it all. The question before us now is whether we will join Trump's crusade to delegitimize and undo the legal outcome of the 2020 election with all the consequences that might have. I have worked overseas in nations where changes in leadership come only with violence, where democracy takes hold only until the next violent upheaval. America is exceptional because our constitutional system guards against that. At the heart of our republic is a commitment to the peaceful transfer of power among political rivals in accordance with law. President Ronald Reagan described this as our American miracle. While embracing or ignoring Trump's statements might seem attractive to some for fundraising and political purposes, that approach will do profound long-term damage to our party and our country. Then she goes on, and it's more. Finally, we Republicans need to stand for genuine conservative principles and steer away from dangerous and anti-democratic Trump cult of personality. In our hearts, we are devoted to the American miracle. We believe in the rule of law, in limited government, in a strong national defense, and a prosperity and opportunity brought by low taxes and fiscally conservative policies. And she goes on, and then she say, history is watching, our children's watching. We must be brave enough to defend the American principles that underpin and protect our freedom and our democratic process. So she went on that bullshit. And after she went on with that bullshit, yes, and I called it bullshit, you go to her voting record. And it comes from Cowboy Study Daily. Even though it's not the best source, but it's an accurate number. Cheney voted with Trump 93% of the time. Versus Matt Gaetz, who only voted with him 85% of the time. So once again, Elizabeth Cheney voted with Donald Trump 93% of the time. So what I'm about to say is because I got to be real with the shits. Elizabeth, Congresswoman Cheney, are you really trying to make yourself as this responsible and good Republican that uphold our American values? Because for the last 4 years that you've been in Congress, because you haven't been in Congress that long, you voted 93% of the time with the former guy on his very harsh, extreme right policies. I understand you voted for him twice, but then you voted with him on policies that affect people that look like me. People that come from other places from this country. I just want to ask Elizabeth, and yes, I'm calling her Elizabeth, where was this energy when this man withheld military funds from Ukraine? Over $400 million allocated by the very same Congress you serve in. No answer. And why you did not impeach him the first time? Because this is what he got impeached for. Abuse of power and obstruction of justice. It was a pre-warning to what was going to happen on January 6th. Where was this energy? This is another question. When he had children in cages. Tender age, babies. That's what tender age is. And had them in harsh conditions forever, even during COVID. No response? How about in that same year, prior to the kids in cages that we found out from the news, when he called people that came from South Africa, African nations, and Haiti, a shithole country. Where was that energy? And then downplay it and said shit house. Or even better, where was this energy when he said there were fine people on both sides during the Charlottesville thing, calling white supremacists with tiki torches, Jews will not replace us, when it was chanting that shit, fine people? So let's ask Elizabeth this question again. Where was his energy when he withheld military funds from Ukraine, when he had children in cages and called people from African nations and Haiti shithole countries, that they came from shithole countries? And where was this when he had the, calling people white supremacists fine people? Where was that, Elizabeth? Where was that when he took money from, they was taking money from the Special Olympics? When he rescinded a policy that would actually help people like me that needed affordable housing in the suburbs? Where was that energy? None. Why? Because you did not give a fuck. As long as he put your judges on the federal courts, from the lower to the highest court, which is the Supreme Court, you did not give two flying fucks. When y'all passed that disastrous tax bill that cost this country so much money to cut taxes for the rich, you had nothing to say. So now you found Jesus after an attack on the Capitol that your fucking life was in danger. All of a sudden, you care about our democracy and the rule of law and defending your party's conservative values, which that's translated for the white man's and the white woman's values. Lady, please. Nobody got time for that motherfucking bullshit. And your last name has not a good legacy behind it. Because your dad did some real crazy shit in his day. His time during the Bush 41 administration and Bush 43 administration. No wonder why he's sick right now. And that's no shade. That's karma. Ask why your sister withheld her sexuality until now because of you and your father's views. All of a sudden, you guys accept her. Elizabeth Cheney is not to be trusted. She is the example and exemplifies Karenism. She's a Karen who has a high position in Congress. That's who she is. She does not care. She's doing all of this to hold her reputation, so she might run for president in 2024. But the Republican Party has been doomed. It's been doomed since I can say the Reagan years. He was like, no, it's not. Yes, it has. He was horrible. His policies have hurt people that look like me. And some of his policies are still in effect today in other places. He is the reason, him and his administration is the reason why there's systemic issues in all our institutions. Not surprised, right? Yeah. But getting back to Elizabeth. Elizabeth did not say nothing when her party was going through the changes. They already had the Tea Party before she got there. She could have said something even though she was somebody's daughter in politics, famous in politics. Her dad could have said something. Her dad didn't say shit. Her dad actually supported the Tea Party. Knowing that the Tea Party was a preempt to what is now the QAnon Party. And the misinformation motherfuckers. Yeah. The Republican Party has been changing for quite some time. And I could take it back even further than Reagan. How about Nixon? Because Nixon seemed like he was a fucking conspiracy theorist. Gerald Ford was not memorable. Ronald Reagan was a whole entire racist. George Bush was just devious. Bush 43 was just dumb. And Donald Trump was a full-on racist, a whole entire Bull Connor, George Wallace in a fat man's body. So the Republican Party has been changing. It's now coming to light that these assholes have always been racist. Having Tim Scott and Will Hurd in the party and what's her name? Mia Love and Burgess Owens, having them in the party don't really mean nothing. Because the Republican Party's been started losing people of color for quite some time. It just got really worse under Donald Trump. So, Elizabeth, to your point, you're nothing but an opportunist who just have a high position, whose reputation's already screwed, voting with this man 93% of the time. The most out of all Republican politicians, even as much as Mitch McConnell. So therefore, your words don't mean nothing. It has no value. And Godspeed to keeping your position. Because everything don't last forever. But also, speaking of more GOPness, Meghan Marguerite McCain, co-host of The View, political analyst, had a whole entire meltdown, scared for her life that Liz Cheney will lose her position, saying that she doesn't know what her party is anymore, and that she doesn't want to become a Democrat. She's not a leftist. First of all, the Democrat Party is a big tent party. It's a big tent party. The Democrat Party has conservative Dems, moderate Dems, centrist Dems, liberal Dems, and progressives. 5 ideologies in the party. You don't have to be a leftist to be a Democrat. Look at Joe Manchin. So, I don't know Where you getting this talking points from? Oh yeah, you get it from your no-neck husband, Mr. Meghan McCain. Benjamin. Yeah, Benjamin. So as a registered Democrat who's been a Democrat since she was 18 years old, we don't want you in our party. We don't want Karen energy in our party. We don't want complainers and whiners in our party. We have some of them, but not a big swath of them. You add it there will make it worse. So you could keep being a Republican, keep fighting with the people in your party, getting the most disrespect from the people in your party because they don't like you. There's people that tweet and say they don't like you. They disrespect your father, alive and dead. They disrespect your mom. So you can stay in that party and get all the vitriol that you can get. Okay? Because we're fine not having you in our party. Simple as that. But speaking of the Democratic Party, yes, it's a big tent party. And I get it's a big tent party. But when it comes to legislation, everything is not up to the executive branch. Even though they have power, everything is up to, legislation is up to the legislative branch. That's why we have a 3-branch government for a reason. A whole entire reason. We have, executive, which is the president. We have judges. That's just which is judicial, and then we have the legislative branch, which is our House of Representatives and the U.S. Senate. For legislation to get moving, if you want the legislation to get moving, all the legislation that you want, all you gotta do is call your senators. Everything is not up to Joe Biden to talk to Joe Manchin or to sit down with Joe Manchin, even though Joe Manchin is acting like an ass. Even though he's following what his constituents is doing, hold up. That's what happens when you're running for Senate and you're not combating the messages that's coming right and left. It's unfortunate that this last election was about race. Thanks to Donald Trump and his Republican Party. But if you want your legislation to be passed, call your senators. Republican or Democrat, call your senators. Call them off the hook. My senator is the majority leader. And he's been tweeting some dumb shit lately. Cancel student loan stuff. First of all, you need to get the George Floyd Justice and Police Act passed. Hi, Ebony. You can get that passed before you even start, tweeting that dumb shit. Because if you don't get the George Floyd Justice and Policing Act passed and get the Voting Rights Act passed, Republicans in other states are going to keep passing these voter suppression laws, and black men and black women are going to keep getting killed by the police. Yes, you guys put the anti-Asian violence against Asian Americans there, but it's time to get the George Floyd Justice and Policing Act passed because it's a really good bill. I read some of it. It's on congress.gov. So I want my senator, who is a majority leader, to cut the tweeting bullshit and actually, get that bill on the floor. It's important. I want to see good, peaceful legislation. We vote you in, and we can vote your ass out if you ain't doing your motherfucking job. Because midterms are next year. It's next year. But on that note, I am about to get off. It's been one heck of a night. I hosted a Twitter Space conversation. It was a pretty spirited conversation, but it was good. And I will speak to you guys tomorrow. On Twitter Space, probably. Or just be on Twitter. How I'm feeling, depending on my allergies. You have a good night.